Welcome back. It is another year of college football picks right here on the BroThrow YouTube channel. I'm Jake alongside Chad, and we are coming to you today with all of our best bets from preseason action. We're talking win totals, we're talking Heisman Trophy, we're talking playoff picks, right? Now we're going to a 12-team playoff this year. We got all this new conference realignment. It's going to be an absolutely insane season of college football. Chad, what are you most looking forward to this season in college football?
Kind of like the chaos. You've got this consolidation of all of the conferences. You've got teams playing other teams they didn't play before. Generally, you've got teams that typically play other teams that they're not going to see this year. So I think that it's just going to be kind of a wide open race to the finish. I love the 12-team playoff. Obviously, you're going to have all kinds of teams that would love to have been in the last few years who now have a shot. And I just really like the open end of what we've got going this year.
Can be crazy. No longer does one loss or two losses knock you out for the entire season. There's going to be some 3, maybe even 4 loss teams in the playoffs this year. We're going to get to our playoff picks in a second. I want to start off talking about win totals. All of our lines are courtesy of FanDuel today via the preseason bets. But Chad, you said you're very, very high on Arizona this year. So I'd love to hear why. I think that they're a very nice pick for those over 7.5. 7.5 is that win total number right there.
Yeah, I love the 7.5. You look at their schedule; they've only got 2 teams preseason top 25. I think it's Kansas State and Utah, which I also really like this year. But really, it's one factor, well, 2 factors, but the main factor is Noah Fifita, returning Pac-12 Freshman of the Year to a team that won 10 games last year, including their bowl game. And then you've got T-Mac, who is probably going to be high on my charts whenever it comes to dynasty fantasy football coming up in the NFL in the next couple of years. So love the schedule, love Noah, love the weapons, and I love their schedule.
Yeah, McMillan, I believe, is like the number 1 returning receiver via yards returning, because we lost obviously Adunza and Neighbors and a couple of these other top guys. And ever since Fifita took over for Arizona last year, as you said, they went 7-0 in their last 7 games, beating multiple ranked teams. But my big question for them is going to be on the coaching side of things, right? They lost head coach Jed Fish. He went to the University of Washington to replace Kalen DeBoer, who went to Alabama. And they brought in a coach who I like, Brennan from San Jose State. But still, whenever there's coach upheaval, there's always some question marks. But I do agree with you. I love the over here. Fifita and McMillan is probably the best quarterback receiver combo returning from last season, and a very nice schedule now in the new Big 12 for them. All right, now speaking of teams that moved from the Pac-12 to a new conference, we're talking UCLA for this next spot here. Now in the Big 10, 7-5 last year. We have a 4.5 for the over/under win total here. And I am taking the under at plus 118, a little plus odds here for UCLA. But it's not such a hard cry to say that they can drop 3 games from where they were last year. Number 1, they lost head coach Chip Kelly, and he didn't get fired. He didn't leave to, go to Alabama or, Georgia. No, he left to go to Ohio State as the offensive coordinator. Never really seen anything like it before, and I've been following football a long time. An active big-time head coach saying, I'm not really interested in recruiting anymore. I'm not interested in running the program. I'm fine being an offensive coordinator. But, their loss to Ohio State's gain. But unfortunately for UCLA, they didn't stop there. They lost quarterback Dante Moore, who was a standout 5-star true freshman. They lost Pac-12 Defensive Player of the Year Latu going to the NFL. Now they move to the Big 10 with an extremely difficult schedule that involves a ton of travel, right? They're in Los Angeles having to fly all over to the East Coast. So I think they have the most travel of any team this season. And you look at the schedule, they probably only have 2 or 3 wins that you would say these are pretty surefire. And again, I'm not saying those are for sure locks against like Fresno State and Indiana and Hawaii. They could easily drop some of those. With quarterback Ethan Garbers, he did play a little bit last year, but they A, went to Dante Moore for a reason, and B, the Pac-12 last year defenses were absolutely horrific, and Garbers still was only above 160 yards passing twice. I don't like the state of their offense. I don't like the travel. I don't like the schedule in the Big 10. I think it's going to be a rough welcome to a new conference season for UCLA.
Yeah, I agree with this. The under 4.5. I mean, if you, like you said, I hate using the top 25 preseason because obviously by the end of the season, top 10, top 20, top 25 are all going to look different. However, you've got 5 teams in the top 25 that they play this year. And like we discussed before, if they drop Hawaii, if they drop Indiana, then they basically have to play near perfect football outside of their conference and those top teams. So it's going to be tough for them to get over 4.5. Not to mention new coach Deshaun's in there, Deshaun Foster coming from the running back room. How do you have any continuity with Chip Kelly's offense without Chip Kelly? So either they're going to have a whole new look, or they're going to be trying to recreate what Chip Kelly had when he left.
All right, now on from UCLA to, probably your favorite team, the Arkansas Razorbacks. What do you got on them?
That's right, Jake. I want to preface it this season and let the fans know, yes, I am an Arkansas homer, but I am the most pessimistic Arkansas homer they'll ever hear from. We've got just years of heartbreak, whether it's football, basketball, or baseball. We've been there. We've sat through it all. But I got to tell you, 4.5 wins this season seems like it's very doable. I'll give you 2 reasons right off the bat, and then we can get into the schedule. Number 1, Bobby Petrino. Bobby Petrino's back. The fans love it. Well, most of the fans love it. Whoops. And he's replacing Dan Enos, who was, he's a good coach. He's a good offensive coordinator, but he just wasn't very good at Arkansas. And Bobby's going to come in and he's going to transform this offense. So, number 1, Bobby P. Number 2, the offensive line last year allowed KJ Jefferson to get sacked 47 times. I think that was 131st out of 133 teams, which is just a tragedy. So we've got a transfer center coming in, transfer left tackle, transfer right tackle. I think it's really going to transform that offense to allow us to have some time and score a lot of points. Now, if you get into the schedule, the 3 non-conference games, UAPB, UAB, and Louisiana Tech, I think there's 3. And then outside of that, you got to win Mississippi State, which I think we'll beat Mississippi State. I hope I'm confident in that. Then outside of that, you got to get 1 from Oklahoma State, Auburn, and A&M. One of those 3 gets you over the bar. It's a little bit of wishful thinking that we're going to go in and we're going to beat Oklahoma State at home. They've got the leading rusher last year. So I don't think we're going to do anything with Oklahoma State. But if we do, you may even see 5-6 wins.
Yeah, I'm looking at the schedule right now, and it just looks absolutely devastating. I mean, as you said, at Oklahoma State, Texas A&M, Tennessee, LSU, Ole Miss, Texas, Mizzou. Those are all ranked teams. You also got at Auburn, at Mississippi State. So even some of the easier SEC games are still on the road, and we know how difficult it is to win on the road. I think we're going to have to see a massive season from Taylon Green if he's going to hit this number. I loved watching him last year at Boise. He is super fast, really, really athletic. But I'm going to trust you, being such a huge fan, knowing what Bobby Petrino brings to the table as a former, big-time head coach, former big-time offensive coordinator. No doubt he will be an upgrade from what there was last year. I do think Arkansas is going to have to get some upsets here and there, though, to get this 4.5 number, though. They're going to need a nice season to get this done, but I think they can do it.
Yeah. Like I said, it's one of A&M, which we typically, in years past, even the years that they were ranked much higher, it was a close game, and there's usually a fumble or a pick late in the game or 2 drives down to the 1-yard line, 4 plays, rush the ball up the middle, get stuffed. Something like that has to flip this year, and I think maybe this is the year. Now, bowl game, no, but 4.5, yes.
All right, speaking of a team that not only wants to make a bowl game, but make the playoffs themselves, the Alabama Crimson Tide. They've made the playoffs more often than not in the 4-team era, and now with the expansion to 12 teams, you would think it should be a lock, no? But they did lose the biggest secret to their success. Of course, that is Nick Saban, longtime head coach, finally retired. He's off to that big pregame show in the sky on ESPN. But Kalen DeBoer stepping in as the new head coach, I'm very high on him. That is why I'm on Alabama's over 9.5 at plus 116. Again, a nice little plus odds play here. But Bama, you look at their schedule, and while they do play Georgia, they played them at home. And with the home field advantage that Bryant-Denny Stadium is going to bring, I mean, Alabama beat Georgia last year with Jalen Milroe at quarterback. So I'm not saying that it's a lock for them to win that game, but I'm not saying it's a surefire loss. I don't think any game on their schedule is a surefire loss. And with the leap that I expect Jalen Milroe to make under Kalen DeBoer, I mean, look at how Michael Penix improved year after year. I think that it's safe to say that Alabama is going to be competitive in every single game on the schedule this year. They did lose a lot of talents. There's no doubt about that. There were a lot of guys who were on this team specifically to play for Nick Saban, and they left. Guys like Caleb Downs, a couple of their receivers. But they brought in a lot of really good transfers. They already have a ton of great talent on the team. I think the schedule is, again, they only have to go 3-2 in their 5 ranked games, and they could go 5-0. They could go 3-2, but either way, I feel pretty confident that this team is going to get the job done. I'm a huge fan of DeBoer, so roll Tide, baby, roll Tide.
Yeah, I think it's an easy future. DeBoer, like you said, he knows how to win. He has won. He's won with less. Yeah, he had Penix. Yeah, he's had a great coaching career, and now he's stepping into an incredible situation. Alabama has that ability to go and get 4 and 5 star players, develop them, and start games with juniors and seniors almost exclusively, unless they have these studs that just stand out. So you look at their schedule, like you said, you've got Georgia, maybe Mizzou, maybe OU. Those are the 3 that I really kind of pinpointed on. Those are going to be their tougher games. But I don't see them dropping to Tennessee, and I don't see them dropping both to Mizzou and OU.
Well, if they do beat Mizzou, that may be one loss on the schedule for them. You're on their over, so what do you think about that?
Yeah, like we say, as a Razorback fan, I hate it. There's this drummed up fake rivalry that they've told us we now have. I don't see it. Maybe because they beat us every year, but the over 9.5 seems to be like a pretty easy play to me. I mean, you look at their schedule, they've got 4 bottom SEC opponents, including Arkansas. They're out of conference or Murray State, Buffalo, BC, and they play at UMass, but I really don't think that home field advantage means much for a team that's bringing back their senior quarterback and Brady Cook. I mean, this kid, last year we watched him dice up some of the best teams in the nation. When people were doubting Mizzou, they just kept continuing to go. And now they have a transfer coming in, Marcus Carroll from Georgia State. They lost Cody Schrader, who was a top 5 running back last year. They're similarly built. I just don't see them dropping off. So I'm going to go with Mizzou, 9.5.
Yeah, I think Mizzou is very similar to one of the teams we talked about earlier in this video in Arizona, where they have one of, if not the best quarterback wide receiver duo. I think Mizzou in that Brady Cook and Luther Burden combo, and Arizona with the Fafita McMillan combo, those are definitely the top 2. It's just a question of which you like better. Mizzou definitely has a tough schedule with Bama, Oklahoma, Texas A&M on the road, but they would have to lose all 3 of those to hit the under. And I think that with the strength of their offense, I do like them to pick up at least one of those wins. So it's a nice plus odds play again. I see the vision there. And then, you mentioned Mizzou as rivals with Arkansas as a kind of a fake rivalry. Well, their real rival is Kansas. They don't really play Kansas much anymore now that they're in different conferences. But I am also on Kansas to have a very strong season here. I love their over 8.5. Again, plus 138. This is a team that was 8-4 last year, and they didn't have their starting quarterback, Jalen Daniels, for the majority of the season. He was injured. Jason Bean played very, very well. Don't get me wrong. He's a really solid quarterback. But now they get Jalen Daniels back for the entire season, healthy, ready to go. They return both of their running backs in Devin Neal and Daniel Highshaw, both of their leading receivers in Lawrence Arnold and Luke Grimm, and their head coach in Lance Leipold. This should be the most continuous offense in the entire country. They were really, really solid last year. They have an absolutely beautiful schedule. They're in the Big 12 and they only play one ranked team. They avoid Zona. They avoid Utah. They avoid Oklahoma State. Everything looks prime for Kansas. I guess you could say their stadium's under construction, so they don't technically have their home games, but I'm not really concerned about that. This team should have a huge season. I'm really high on them. Over 8.5 wins for Kansas football.
Yeah, totally agree. At this point, before the season starts, all we have to go off is preseason rankings, maybe a little of your research in the offseason, coach changes, who's staying, who's going, who are the Heisman favorites, who are the candidates to win the most games. And all we really can do is look at the schedule. You got Kansas State, and that's it. I mean, who else are they going to lose to? They'll probably drop a few in there. But with the X factor and Jalen Daniels, I think this is a great pick. And I'm probably going to ride them all season. The last few years, it seems like Kansas, they haven't given them their due. And I won spread bets on them the last 2-3 seasons. Maybe one of my favorite teams to bet the last few years.
Yep, we've been on them all last year on the BroThrow YouTube show, and we will continue to be on them in future BroThrow YouTube shows, I predict. And that is going to do it for this episode of the BroThrow YouTube show. I think we did a really good job of breaking down all the best bets for preseason win total futures. If you do want to go and sign up for BroThrow, go ahead and go to brothrow.com/YouTube to get access to bet during the regular season for college football, NFL, MLB, NBA when it comes back. Every sport is available there. Chad, anything else to say?
Just go Hogs.
Yes, sir. I got to say
4.5, baby.
I got to say go Hoosiers too. And we'll see everybody in the next one. Peace.
Thanks, guys.